Welcome to Global Crypto, the channel where we break down everything happening in the world of digital assets so you never miss a beat. I'm thrilled to have you here today because we've got a story that is genuinely turning heads across the crypto community right now. We're talking about two very different but equally fascinating opportunities sitting in front of investors at this very moment. On one side, you've got XRP, the battle-tested blue chip that analysts at Standard Chartered have pinned with an $8 price prediction. On the other side, you've got AlphaPepe, a presale project that's generating serious buzz after reports surfaced that Binance listing talks are actually accelerating. Now, whether you're a seasoned trader or someone just starting to navigate this space, today's breakdown is going to give you the full picture on both of these plays. So sit tight, because this one is packed with the kind of detail that actually matters when real money is on the line. Let's kick things off with XRP, because this is the asset that a huge chunk of the crypto world keeps coming back to every single cycle. Standard Chartered's $8 price target has been floating around analyst circles for a while now, and it hasn't gone away. In fact, it keeps getting more attention every time the market shows signs of heating up. The reason that number resonates so strongly is because it's not just some random figure someone pulled out of thin air. It's built on a framework that accounts for institutional adoption, growing ETF demand, and the kind of regulatory clarity that could finally give big money managers the green light to pour capital into XRP at scale. Forbes recently highlighted how SBI Ripple Asia's move into Japan's prepaid token market reignited conversation around that higher price scenario, and it got people talking again about what XRP could look like when all of those catalysts actually align at the same time. That's the dream trade a lot of holders have been patient enough to wait for, and honestly, it's hard to blame them for staying convicted on this one. Now, to be completely fair with you, XRP is not a guaranteed $8 story. Nobody in this space should ever frame anything that way, and any channel that does is doing you a disservice. What XRP has going for it is a combination of credibility, real-world utility, and a track record that most crypto projects would absolutely love to have. The Ripple network has been building relationships with financial institutions for years, and that infrastructure isn't something you can replicate overnight. But even with all of that working in its favor, the larger breakout case still depends on a few things lining up perfectly. Adoption needs to keep growing. Institutional demand through ETF vehicles needs to materialize in a meaningful way, and regulatory clarity, particularly in the United States, still needs to come together in a way that removes the uncertainty that has lingered over this asset for far too long. When those pieces fall into place, the bull case becomes a lot more than just speculation. Until then, XRP remains one of the most closely watched assets in the entire market. Now let's shift gears and talk about AlphaPepe, because this is where the conversation gets really interesting for people who are comfortable operating a little earlier in the life cycle of a project. AlphaPepe is currently in stage 14 of its presale, sitting at a price of $0.01586 per token. The presale has already crossed $960,000 raised, which means it is inching very close to that psychologically significant $1 million milestone. More than 8,000 holders have already taken a position before this project has even seen a single public trading candle. That kind of early-stage momentum is not something you see every day, and it's the kind of data point that starts to get serious attention from people who track presale metrics for a living. The fact that so many buyers have already committed to a project that hasn't hit any major exchange yet tells you something very meaningful about the level of conviction that is building around this token right before its public launch. Let's talk about the Binance angle specifically, because this is what's really driving the narrative right now, and why so many eyes are on AlphaPepe at this exact moment. When you hear that listing talks with Binance are accelerating, that is not a minor footnote in a project update. Binance is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world by trading volume, and a listing there is not something that gets handed out casually to just any project that shows up with a presale. The process involves serious scrutiny, and the fact that AlphaPepe is in that conversation at all before its public debut is a signal worth paying very close attention to. For presale buyers, the significance is straightforward. Every stage locks in a price point, and when the token eventually hits an exchange, the market determines value based on supply, demand, and whatever trading activity unfolds in real time. The gap between the presale entry price and the post-listing price is where early participants have historically seen their biggest returns, and a Binance listing absolutely changes the scale of potential exposure this project could receive the moment it goes live. One of the most important concepts for anyone thinking about presale investing is understanding what actually happens between the presale stage and the moment a token starts trading on a public exchange. Before listing, buyers come in through the structured stage price, and that price increases with every new stage that closes. Every time a stage ends, the entry point for new buyers moves higher, which means waiting costs you real money in the form of a more expensive entry. Once the token lists publicly, the market takes over completely, and there is no more structured entry available to anyone. The price becomes whatever buyers and sellers agree on in real time, with no safety net and no organized stage system protecting your cost basis. This transition is often where the most dramatic price action occurs, which is exactly why doing your research before that moment is so critical. AlphaPepe is still in that pre-sale window right now, and stage 14 buyers are entering at a price that the public market simply hasn't had a chance to weigh in on yet. Here's something that often gets overlooked when people evaluate pre-sale projects, but it matters more than most people realize when you're actually trying to turn a pre-sale position into real gains. AlphaPepe has built its token delivery structure with instant access in mind. There is no vesting schedule attached to your purchase. There is no claim portal you have to wait for after the listing happens. There are no post-listing distribution mechanics that leave you sitting on the sidelines watching price action while you wait for your tokens to actually become available in your wallet. This is a bigger deal than it sounds on the surface. One of the most frustrating experiences in the pre-sale world is buying into a project early, watching the token launch and start moving in the right direction, and then realizing you can't access your holdings because of some lockup structure that wasn't clearly communicated up front. AlphaPepe removes that problem entirely, and that kind of clean execution on the delivery side is a sign of a team that has genuinely thought about the investor experience from start to finish. Now here's where AlphaPepe starts to separate itself from the crowd of meme-adjacent pre-sales that flood the market during every bull cycle, and this is the part of the story that I think deserves the most attention. AlphaSwap, which is the core product built by a developer with real Shibarium experience, is already live as a working demo and has already crossed 1,000 active users before the pre-sale has even closed. Let that sink in for just a second. This project has a real functioning product with actual user traction before a single token has traded on a public exchange. That is genuinely rare in this space. Most early-stage launches are asking you to trust a roadmap, a white paper, and a set of promises about what the team plans to build after they've raised the money. AlphaPepe flips that entire script by putting a live AI-powered DEX demo in front of buyers right now, today, before you've even had to commit a single dollar to the pre-sale. Let's go a little deeper on what AlphaSwap actually does, because understanding the product is what separates informed investing from just chasing hype on social media. The platform uses artificial intelligence to give traders actionable pre-trade intelligence, which means you're getting meaningful analysis before you pull the trigger on a position, rather than scrambling to make sense of things after you've already committed your capital. Contract screening is one of the key features, and it is significant because the number of malicious or poorly written contracts floating around the crypto space at any given moment is genuinely alarming for retail investors. Having an automated layer that evaluates contract quality before you swap gives everyday traders a type of protection that used to require either deep technical knowledge or access to expensive third-party tools. Whale tracking is another layer that adds serious real-world value, because watching where large wallets are moving can give smaller traders early signals about where momentum might be building or where a potential problem could be incoming before it hits the wider market. Security in crypto is not optional. It is the foundation that everything else has to be built on, and AlphaPepe has taken that responsibility seriously by bringing in BlockSAFU for a full contract audit that came back with a perfect 10 out of 10 score. That kind of result doesn't happen by accident or because a team submitted a half-finished contract and got lucky with the reviewer. It means auditors went through the smart contract code line by line and found nothing that raised red flags around vulnerabilities, exploits, or mechanisms that could potentially be used to drain investor funds after listing. In a market that has seen its fair share of rug pulls, honeypots, and projects with hidden functions buried deep in the contract, a clean audit from a credible and recognized firm is not a small thing to brush past. It's the kind of third-party validation that gives buyers a meaningful layer of confidence when they're evaluating where to put their money in a space that is still full of bad actors looking for the next opportunity to take advantage of retail enthusiasm. What makes this particular moment in the AlphaPepe story so compelling is the way multiple positive signals are stacking on top of each other at exactly the same time, which almost never happens this cleanly in the pre-sale world. You've got stage 14 pricing still available at the current level. You've got a pre-sale that has raised nearly $1 million and is attracting new holders consistently. You've got a live product demo with real user traction already surpassing 1,000 active users. You've got a perfect audit score from a credible firm that went through every line of the contract. You've got a Q2 2026 exchange debut firmly on the calendar. And on top of all of that, you've now got Binance listing talks that are reportedly accelerating in real time. In the world of pre-sale investing, you rarely get all of those signals converging simultaneously in the same window, and that convergence is exactly what has the community paying such close attention to this project right now. One of the most consistent themes you'll hear from experienced crypto investors is the critical importance of timing your entry relative to where a project is in its life cycle. XRP is a perfect example of a blue-chip asset where the discovery phase is long behind us. Millions of people around the world know what XRP is, have access to it on every major exchange, and can buy it at any moment with just a few taps on their phone. The upside case, while genuinely real, depends on macro-level catalysts and large-scale adoption events that require patience and a longer time horizon. AlphaPepe is the polar opposite of that right now. It is still before its first public trading candle. It is still before the wave of discovery that comes with a major exchange listing that puts a token in front of millions of new eyes overnight. It is still before the market has decided what it's actually worth, and that distinction matters enormously for the risk-reward calculation you're making when you decide where to allocate. The Q2 2026 timeline for AlphaPepe's exchange debut is worth thinking about carefully because it gives the project a very defined window that investors can orient their decisions around with some clarity. We are close enough to that date that the pre-sale urgency is completely real without being so far away that the excitement loses its momentum and starts to feel distant. For current pre-sale participants, that timeline means they are holding a position that is scheduled to transition into publicly traded territory within a relatively short time horizon. Every stage that closes between now and that listing date pushes the entry price higher for anyone who hasn't positioned themselves yet. That means buyers coming in during stage 14 are locking in a price that stage 15, 16, and every stage beyond will simply not offer. The compounding effect of stage price increases is one of the core mechanics that drives genuine urgency in pre-sale structures, and AlphaPepe has executed that structure in a way that keeps real pressure on the timeline without feeling artificially manufactured or dishonest. Here is the core point that ties this whole conversation together, and it's something worth sitting with for a genuine moment before you make any decisions. XRP and AlphaPepe represent two fundamentally different types of opportunity in the crypto space right now. XRP is a discovered asset. Its fundamentals are well understood by the market, its price history is deeply documented across multiple cycles, and its future depends largely on whether the broader adoption and institutional narrative continues building in the right direction. That is not a criticism of XRP in any way. That is simply the reality of what it means to be a large-cap, widely held cryptocurrency that has already been through the full discovery process. AlphaPepe exists in a completely different category at this moment. It is pre-discovery. The broader market does not know what this token is worth yet because the public market simply hasn't had a chance to weigh in. That window is still open, but it will not stay open forever, and every stage that closes is a reminder of exactly how short that window actually is. So here is where we land as we wrap up today's segment on global crypto, and I want to make sure you're walking away with a clear picture of both sides of this conversation. If you're someone who has been holding XRP and watching that $8 target with a long-term mindset, the bull case there is real, the fundamental story remains intact, and the combination of institutional adoption, ETF demand, and regulatory progress could absolutely push that price to levels that reward patient holders in a meaningful way. But if you're also someone who is actively looking for an earlier stage opportunity with more upside potential relative to current entry pricing, then AlphaPepe deserves your serious attention right now while stage 14 is still live. The presale has nearly hit $1 million raised, the Binance listing talks are accelerating, the product demo is live with real users, and the audit score is as clean as it gets. Every stage that closes is a price reset that moves the entry higher, the Q2 exchange debut is approaching fast, and the question for anyone sitting on the fence right now is simply this: do you want to be positioned before the market decides what this token is worth, or after? As always, do your own research, manage your risk carefully, and thank you so much for being here with us today on Global Crypto. We will see you in the next one.